I saw a YouTube clip by Let's Talk and Lynch, and it said tens don't complain about marriage, only fours do. And I responded to it because I found it kind of funny. And I said, well, women file for 70% of divorces, so maybe they don't complain, they just file. I also stated that making this comment is kind of walking right into the point and still missing it. Because it's kind of like complaining that multimillionaires don't complain about capitalism. Of course they don't. It was designed for them, to benefit them, to make them richer. And marriage was designed for the tens, not just tens physically, but tens financially, tens in their network and their connections and their status. So if you look back at history, marriage was a luxury item. It was for the wealthy to create powerful alliances between the wealthy. And you married within your station, and it wasn't even considered that the poor would marry, because marriage was a contract to legitimize the distribution of inheritance. Well, if you're poor, you don't really have anything that your children are going to inherit, so you don't necessarily need to legitimize your heirs. If you're poor, you don't have a need to make powerful alliances because you don't have any power. And you don't need to worry about, again, your station or your status, because in history in the past, you couldn't move up. You would stay exactly where you were. We didn't have upward mobility, so marriage was for the wealthy. And if you look at the reasons why women generally complain about marriage, the number one reason for divorce on most of the lists that I've ever seen is money. Well, if you're wealthy, you tend to have fewer monetary problems if you're managing your money well. You have people to take care of your money often and pay your bills and, invest it and handle it. So money isn't as much of an issue as it is for the rest of us. And then you have the second biggest complaint, which is basically an unequal division of labor. Well, if you're wealthy, you have help. You can hire help. You can hire people to cook and clean and care for your kids and, do whatever chores you don't want to do. So your life becomes a lot softer, a lot more pampered, a lot less laborious. And so you're taking out two of the biggest reasons why people tend to get, divorced or tend to complain if you are a 10 marrying a 10. So it's kind of like walking right into the point and missing that marriage is such a struggle for the majority of people, because you're bringing two people together who many times are struggling, and they are struggling now together. And sometimes that's beneficial, and sometimes that just makes everything worse. And then when you end up with a system that has taught men that they're superior and women that they're inferior, and that power imbalance begins to be exacerbated within the confines of the four private walls of a home, you have a recipe for neglect, abuse, entitlement, feeling unappreciated, feeling overwhelmed, all of the things that lead to complaints. But when you have two, in a sense, powerful people coming together where they each have their own way of handling their power, their influence, it's not the same dynamic that you see in a lot of other relationships. So once again, she kind of walked into the point and missed it altogether. So when you see a situation, sometimes it's good, rather than just jumping to a conclusion, to ask why that situation might be the way that it is, rather than just assuming that a woman's beauty and her being a 10 means she has nothing to complain about. There's bigger issues involved than just her being a 10. Just some food